So my friend Vicky, who's a startup owner, has been pestering me for the last week about getting a startup registration for his company, thinking that it will provide him with a lot of tax rebates and other crazy benefits. But is a startup registration really that beneficial? Hi, I am yashwanthnijagal, a chartered accountant in practice. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the biggest myth around the benefits available for a registered startup, and of course the actual benefits which are available, which many of us don't make use of. So the biggest myth which many of us have, including my friend Vicky, is that if you take the startup registration, you will get exemption from paying income tax for 3 years out of the 5 assessment years. But this is not true, because income tax exemption requires a separate approval from the inter-ministerial board, and this is not an easy process, and there are several terms and conditions which have to be adhered to. And another thing is, this is available only for startups which are registered between 1st April 2016 to 31st March 2024. So what are the actual benefits if you obtain a startup registration from DPIIT? So to understand this, you need to be aware of the fact that startup registration will be granted only to a private limited company or an LLP or a partnership firm. This is to say that if you have an individual account or a proprietorship firm, you cannot obtain a startup registration. I'm going to be talking about some of the advantages which are available to a private limited company, because this is not common knowledge. The first one would be that in case of a private limited company which is registered as a startup, ESOPs can be issued to promoters or the directors of the company, which is not possible in case of a company which is not registered as a startup. So this is one of the biggest advantages. It is becoming more common for companies to receive notice from MCA or the Ministry of Corporate Affairs because of some or the other non-compliance. So if your private limited company is registered as a startup, these fines or penalties for any non-compliances under the Companies Act will be reduced by 50%, and this definitely will make a huge difference. So the third one is an important and an interesting one, and this requires some bit of a background. So in case of my friend Vicky, who is a promoter at a private limited company, he is looking to raise funds for his company. At the same time, he does not want to dilute his stakeholding. Now he has few options in terms of raising debt. One is through banking and financial institutions, but his company is fairly new and it is not possible to raise debt for his company. Now the other options which are available is, one is that he can issue debentures, but debentures in India has to be secured, because unsecured debentures are considered as deposits, and there are several restrictions and conditions around unsecured debentures. Now the simplest solution is that he can obtain a startup registration for his private limited company, and that would enable him to issue something called as convertible notes, and these convertible notes can be unsecured, and there are very few terms and conditions around it, and this is a super big advantage. So startup registration does not necessarily mean income tax exemption. So my take would be that if you are a company or an LLP or a partnership firm, go ahead and take the startup registration, because in the long run it is definitely going to be of great advantage. And as always, no tricks, no hacks. Follow me for valuable financial insights.